As the Soviets were conducting secret research into remote viewers, those who see around the globe using only their mind, they realized that the Americans were undergoing similar studies. In fact, it would appear that the West's knowledge would even surpass the Soviets, as you will see when this Paranormal TV Truth Be Told story concludes.
SRI is Stanford Research Institute, and it was at the time about the second major think tank in the whole of the U.S. And at that institute they began the research into the Stargate program. Operation Stargate was the Americans' response to the discovery that the Russians and the Chinese were all using psychics to do espionage. All they had to tell them was the coordinates of where the place was. They could then go in and look there, examine any files in the drawers and read the letters on the tables and get absolutely reconnaissance level information.
The United States government began funding secret projects like Operation Stargate to penetrate and gather intelligence on Soviet military installations and weapons plants. One of their psychics, codenamed 518, was tasked by the National Security Council to remote view a Soviet facility in the Arctic port of Severodvinsk. Spy satellites had detected heavy construction around a particular building, but could not determine what was happening inside. 518 sank into his trance and began to search the building. He saw flashes of light from arc welders and a giant double hull under construction. A submarine. A viewer described a long, flat aft deck with missile tubes below, a tall rudder at the tail, and a new propulsion system. The craft was larger than any known submarine in the world. The NSC confirmed this report when several months later, the first Soviet Typhoon-class submarine was launched into the White Sea. When President Carter found himself entangled in the Iran hostage crisis, he turned again to the remote viewers. Working around the clock, they were able to penetrate the American embassy in Iran and follow the prisoners' movements, as well as their captors, even reporting the mental states of the hostages. A commando raid was organized, but the rescue craft suffered mechanical failures and the operation was aborted. But the remote viewers continued to monitor the hostages until their release. Later, President Reagan would use the same technique to keep track of General Omar Gaddafi and his army with the war in Libya.
4 miles. Stop. Get lock him up. Stop him up.
The Soviet Union was very much worried about any kind of American spying, certainly involving remote viewing or any other paranormal phenomena.
A remote viewer was by far the most perfect spy ever conceived. And the American dominance in the field began to worry the KGB. And the best of these remote viewers was Pat Price. Price is seen here with SRI founder Hal Puthoff and a CIA scientist. The details and accuracy of his remote viewing sessions astonished everyone involved with these secret projects. Over the course of his career, Price spied on impenetrable Soviet bases and submarines running deep in the oceans. It seemed there was no barrier that his mind could not penetrate, including time. In 1973, Price even perceived the onset of the Israel-Yom Kippur War before it occurred. And perhaps of most concern to the Soviets, he could see into secret missile bases where he kept track of the Soviets' arms increase, pinpointed nuclear missile silos, and found code words. The Russians were forced to find countermeasures to defend against such detailed reconnaissance. After stopping in a restaurant in Las Vegas, Nevada, Pat Price complained to a friend that he suspected a man had slipped something into his coffee. That night, Price was found in cardiac arrest, and and he was declared dead at the hospital. But that's not the end of this strange episode. An unidentified man with a briefcase full of Price's medical records arrived at the hospital and convinced doctors that no autopsy of Price was necessary. And then quickly disappeared, leaving behind the disturbing question: was Pat Price the victim of a KGB assassination?